Joan, and you about finished passing out the delegate badges? Doing it during roll call. The first U.S. Open welcome. We're in open ceremonies right now. I'm Jim Berry from Oklahoma, your president. I have 24 hours left on my term, plus 2 years. All right, 32 hours. The first U.S. Open I attended was 1967 Atlanta. The next U.S. Open I attended was 1997 Orlando. The first time I was a delegate, I sat in the back of the room with John Donaldson. I watched the delegates meeting with Don Schultz as president. What I observed was organized chaos. And I said, I can't believe I took a bye to attend this meeting. The organization was from Pat and Bill Hall. Our organized chaos today is, the organization is from Mike Nolan and Pat Smith and Bill Hall. The chaos is from us. But the point I'm trying to make is that in 1997 Orlando, when I shook my head, then I ended up being in charge of the chaos for 2 years. I think now we're ready to start, almost. Okay, the 2011 U.S. Open Delegates meeting. Okay, first item on the agenda is a moment of silence for those in our community who have passed in the previous 12 months. The first name to be announced is Joanne Joyce, Wisconsin. From your states, if you'll announce people who have passed in 12 months, we'll give them a moment of silence.
Norman Pecor of Massachusetts.
Norman Pecor of Massachusetts.
Darby Monahan, Washington.
Darby Monahan, Washington.
Steve Stubenrock, Arizona.
Steve Stubenrock, Arizona.
John Hillary, Southern California.
John Hillary, Southern California. Tony?
Andrew Sherman and Darren Dillinger.
Darren Dillinger? What state is Darren from?
Florida.
Florida.
And Andrew Sherman.
Andrew Sherman?
And Darren Dillinger.
Is that Florida also?
Yes.
Jeremy Gage of Pennsylvania.
Jeremy Gage, Pennsylvania. Walter Cunningham, Florida.
Mike Goodall of Northern California.
Mike Goodall of Northern California.
GM Larry Evans.
GM Larry Evans of Nevada.
Jeffrey Schneider, North Carolina.
Jeffrey Schneider, North Carolina.
Ricardo Smetan of Illinois, who's a FIDE master.
Ricardo Smetan of
Illinois.
Illinois. Larry Parr of Malaysia.
Scott Zingheim, Tennessee.
Scott
Zingheim.
Zingheim.
Z-I-N-G-H-E-I-M.
Wow.
Zingheim of
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Someday our names will be announced, so you know.
Scott wasn't that old.
Alice Span of Oklahoma.
Alice Span, Jerry's widow of Oklahoma.
Oh.
Age 95.
Any others? Moment of silence. Okay, thank you. Steuben Rock was one of those people, and my brother visited Steuben Rock in Arizona, and Steuben Rock's master, and he said, and my brother asked him, what's your favorite player? And Steuben Rock said, Michael Tall. So my brother took him out to my brother's car, opened up the trunk, and pulled out a Michael Tall book, and said, you ever seen this book before? Steuben Rock said, no, I didn't know this book was in print. I've never seen it before. It's a Michael Tall book. I didn't know it existed. My brother said, open up the front cover, and it was signed by Michael Tall. Huh? You had 4 different Tall books, all signed by Michael Tall, with photographs of him signing the books. Anyway, Steuben Rock was taken back. Roll call of delegates. Is that, we got a Harold Winston? Pat Knight.
As we do the roll call, if you've not already picked up your credentials, please come down to Joan. Wave your hand, Joan, and pick them up as your call. Thank you. Can everybody hear me okay? Okay. Alabama, Frank Camerata.
Here.
Gerald Larson.
Here.
Thank you. Alaska, Mike Steno. Frederick Tonys. Arizona, Robert Tanner. Myron Lieberman. Here. Rachel Lieberman. Here. Marty Snyder. Remy Jimenez. Enrique Huerta. William Wharton. Nobody. We have no one from Arkansas. North California. Ruth Heron. Tony Pavin.
Here.
Richard Kopak.
Here.
Solomon Azar. Theo, say your last name for me, please. Yasis, thank you. Jim Eade. Tom Langlet. John Donaldson. Mark Pinto. Ken Zwall. Roger Pullman. John McClunsky. Reggie Reynolds.
He's here. He'll be right back in a few minutes.
South California, Randy Huff.
Here.
Charles Ensing. Stephen Morford. Philip Chase. Isabel Monafar. Thank you. Michael Carr. Cheston Ganawan.
Here.
And Dwayne Barber.
Here.
Colorado, Dean Brown.
Here.
Connecticut, Jim Sloan. Richard Chang. Delaware, Al Carey Lovelace. District of Columbia, Salvador Rosiero. Ralph McKell. Florida, Don Schultz.
Here.
Harvey Lehrman.
Here.
John Haskell.
Here.
Charles S. Hall.
Here.
I'm sorry, is that a here? Ben Cody. Steve Lampkin.
Here.
Paul Tomato.
Correct. Here.
Is that here?
Yes.
Thank you. Robert Brisson. Peter Dyson.
Here.
Georgia, Mike Mulford.
Here.
And Thad Rogers.
Here.
Hawaii, Lawrence Griffith. Guy Ante. Idaho, Kevin Patterson. Q.S. Myers. Illinois, Harold Winston.
Here.
Tim Just.
Here.
Savon Meridian.
Here.
Lawrence Cohen.
I'm here.
Are you here? Okay, thank you. Mark Nevlin.
Here.
Thank you. Garrett Scott.
Here.
Jim Egerton.
Here.
Thank you.
Great record.
Indiana, Gary Fox. Nate Chris. Iowa, Randy Bauer.
Present.
Roger Gottschalk.
Here.
Kansas, Tom Brownscombe.
Here.
Kentucky, Alan Priest.
Here.
Steve Dillard. Tracy Vibert. Louisiana, Patrick Hardy. James P. McManus. Maine, Stephen Abrams. Dan Fishbein. Maryland, Larry Kaufman. Dennis Stenswick. Thank you, sorry. Ed Westing.
Here.
Thank you. Julius Wade. Massachusetts, Kenneth R. Ballou.
Here.
Robert D. Messenger.
Here.
Brian Mottershead.
Here.
Thank you. Michigan, Bradley K. Rogers. Stan Beckwith. Jennifer Skidmore.
Here, I think the other two are public. Check it.
Yes, they are.
Minnesota, David Coons. Here. Okay, help me with this one, David. Cicera.
I was like, no, not here.
Okay, thank you. Mississippi, Stephen Curry. Ralph McNaughton. Missouri, Thomas R. Raymeyer.
Here.
Thank you. And Bob Howell.
Here.
Thank you. Montana, Dan McCord. Nebraska, Mike Nolan.
Here.
Nevada, Charles Hathrell.
Present.
New Hampshire, Alexander Relier.
Here.
Thank you. New Jersey, Roger Inglis. Joe Lux. James Manella. Noreen Davison. Aaron Keeds. Steve Ferraro. Michael Kardakovsky.
Here.
Thank you. New Mexico, Rod Avery.
Here.
Thank you. New York Downstate, Beatrice Marinello. Holly Wright. Sunil. Your mentor. Gotcha, Beatrice. Sunil.
Maybe we should say check instead of present or here.
Checkmate.
That would work. Harold Stencil. Steve Emmett. Ed Frumkin. Joe Felder. Carol Jarecki. Sophia Rode. Dr. Frank Brady. New York Upstate, Bill Goichberg.
Here.
Brenda Goichberg. North Carolina, Jeff Jones.
Not attending.
Walter High.
Here.
Gary Newsom.
Not attending.
Maureen Grimall. Is that right? David Causey.
Here.
Thank you. North Dakota, Dan McClintock. Ohio, Gary Walters.
Here.
Oklahoma, Jim Berry.
Here.
Jim
Check,
Gor-
check.
Check. Jim Gray.
Here.
Oregon, Carl Hessler.
Here.
Thank you. Pennsylvania, Stephen Shutt.
Here.
Boyd Reed, Stanley and Booz, Daniel E. Heisman, Tom Martinek. Rhode Island, Frank Vogel, Frank Delbonis. South Carolina, John McCrary.
Here.
Thank you. David Grimald.
Here.
South Dakota. Tennessee, Harry Sabine.
Here.
Chris Prosser.
Here.
Angela. Texas, Timothy Redmond. Frank Guadalupe.
Here.
Clementine Rendon. Michael Langer. James Stallings.
Here.
Lori Balcom. Russell Harwood.
Here.
Selby Kane Anderson. Rob Jones. Louis Salinas.
Here.
Ivan, help me with his last name.
We just told you.
Are you here?
No.
I'm sorry, that was a good one for me. Utah, no one. Vermont, no one. Virginia, Michael Atkins.
Here.
John Farrell.
Here.
Ernie Schlick.
Not here.
Helen Henshaw.
Present.
Mike Hoffpower.
Here.
Andrew Ray.
Not present.
Washington, Fred Kleist.
Here.
Merlin Varner.
Here.
West Virginia, Marvin Barker. Carl Kaiser. Wisconsin, Mike Neatman.
Here.
Guy Hoffman.
Here.
Sandra Paul. Wyoming, Brian Walker. Richard Cohen. Then the additional delegates from the membership meeting August the 5th, 2011. Chuck Unruh.
Here.
Ken Sloan.
Here.
Ralph Bowman.
Check.
Frank Berry. And Teresa Schultz. Thank you.
Frank Berry's here. Busy telling stories.
I'll be about here.
If we have over 53.
Okay, we do have a quorum. Thank you.
So Mike Neatman's going to do that. We have a quorum. If you have motions to the floor, take them to Mike so we can put them on the screen. Mike Nolan. Mike, raise your hand.
Joan first, please.
You'll take them to Joan first,
Yeah.
Mike Nolan second.
Joan is going to do the transcribing. I'm just going to get them on screen. Hopefully keep them up to date.
Everybody read the screen in the back.
I tried to make it as big as I could.
Looks like they can. Okay, next order of business, ADM 1101, Harold Winston.
Delegates, re-elect as delegates at large, the following who are present and whose terms have expired or are expiring: Leroy Dubeck of New Jersey, Randy Huff of Southern California, Harry Sabine of Tennessee, Myron Lieberman of Arizona, John McCrary of South Carolina, and Anthony Cattell of Florida.
We need to vote.
Do we?
Yes.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, actually, you're right. We'll be raising our badges to make sure we don't take votes from non-delegates. All in favor, raise your badge. All opposed, raise your badge. All abstaining, raise your badge. 0-0, the last two. I have a 10.
There was one that said no.
One no. I have a 10 tablet glucose orange packet raises low blood sugar fast and boosts energy that was turned in. Any diabetic delegates? About half the executive board is. 11:02, Harold Winston.
I move that the minutes of the 2010 delegates meeting as distributed to the delegates present in Orlando be accepted.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor, raise your delegate badges. I can't vote unless it makes or breaks a tie, so I'll leave that down there. All opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. 11:03, Bill Deutschberg.
Second.
Moved and seconded, discussion. Anybody else want to be parliamentarian? All in favor of Mike, raise your badge.
Please, somebody else.
All opposed? Mike raises his badge. Abstain? Motion passes. 11:04, Jim Barry. Move the delegates approve the advanced agenda for the 2011 delegates meeting and approve the standing rules as printed in the delegates call.
Mr. President, I have a friendly amendment. The friendly amendment is to move item 1122, which is a very important item, which will take a series of straw votes, to the second item of new business. This comes out of the Bylaws and Government Task Force workshop.
The practical effect would be to move 8 AM 1122 to follow after 8 AM 1112.
Correct.
What happened to my 11:04?
We're still on that.
Oh,
But I have to move this friendly amendment.
part of
before
it.
we pass it. Yeah.
We're amending 1104.
Would you accept that amendment?
yes, I'll accept that
Thank
friendly
you.
amendment. All in favor of 11:04 and its amendment, raise your badge. Opposed? Abstain? Motion passes. So,
Harold, did you say follow or proceed?
Paul.
Follows 1112.
Okay.
So 11:22 is moved up to 11, following 11:12. Certification of election results. Myron Lieberman and Harry Saban. 11:05. Myron, Harry. Anybody else on the election committee?
I am.
Oh, I'm sorry. Here comes Harry. How many microphones we got? 1, 2. Go ahead, Harry.
Mr. President, the roughly 1,893 people voted. The results are as follows. Top vote getter, Gary Walters with 1,596. Second was Mike Neatman with 1,573. Third was Alan Priest, 1,552. And fourth, Savon Meridian, 406.
Thank you. And then nobody else got more than 5?
Nobody else got more than 15 votes. Sam Sloan got 15. Everybody else for write-ins was under 10.
Okay.
I move the results be certified.
Second.
Moved and seconded. The election results be certified. All in favor, raise your badge. All opposed, raise your badge. 2 opposing. Abstain. No abstentions. Motion passes. 11:06, Harold Winston, ratification.
Move that the delegates ratify all actions of the executive board made available to the delegates present in Orlando in the form of either executive board resolutions or minutes since the conclusion of the 2010 delegates meeting. Just a note of explanation. By ratification, we're not saying we agree with what the board did. We're saying we understand they had the legal authority to do what they did.
Discussion. In favor, raise your badge. Opposed? 1. Abstain? None. Next is reports of officers and staff. Report of the President. About 10 years ago, I was walking through the Walmart in Stillwater. No agenda, just walking along, going through the music section. I saw a box of discounted cassette tapes. I just happened to glance inside there. And there in the discounted cassette tapes was a 99-cent soundtrack for Searching for Bobby Fischer. I didn't know it existed. I would have paid $20 for it. There it was, 99 cents. I looked around. I felt like I was stealing. I gently picked it up. It was about the only copy in the whole box. Went up to the counter. $1.07 later, I had Searching for Bobby Fischer soundtrack. We play it traveling to tournaments. I'd like to introduce the board and talk about them briefly. One more comment. Those who do not choose to participate in politics end up being the ones abused by them. So I'm glad you all are here. Mike Neatman, very organized, best secretary we've had. Good addition to the board. Mike Atkins. Mike is the conscience of the board. He tells me, Jim, you need to get on the forums more often. They want to hear from the president. He says, Jim, don't change your mind so often. You were right the first time. I love Mike Atkins. Gary Walters, the legal presence was needed on the board for opinions. We say, you sure about that? He says, trust me, I'm a lawyer. Bill Deutschberg. Bill Deutschberg and I started playing rated chess in 1962, him in New York, me in Oklahoma. I followed his career in chess life for 50 years. I first met him here in Orlando in '97. I've been a fan of Bill Deutschberg's ever since, or all the time, for all 50 years. Very tactful, very concerned, overly honest. Ruth played at our tournaments in Oklahoma many, many, many years ago when she was 16, 18. She's very pretty, she still is. Of course, when you're 66, all girls look pretty. Randy Bauer, concerned about the big picture. We're going to miss him, tremendous contacts. He was the obvious choice to be president instead of me, but he was too busy climbing the corporate ladder of success. And it was about 3 years ago, I was sitting in an executive board meeting, and I could see that 3 board members were going to drop off. Randy Huff was not going to go for re-election. Bill Deutschberg was termed out as president. Randy Bauer was too busy. And all of a sudden, it struck me that I better start paying attention. But it could happen to anybody. If you guys have a chance to be president, grab it. It's a great experience. At this point, I'm going to turn over the report to the executive, from the executive director.
Thank you, Mr. President. I want to take a few minutes just to talk a little bit about the last 6 years. It's pretty amazing to me. It's been the blink of an eye, and over 6 years have passed since I took this job, and I couple of months into it, we were meeting in Phoenix, Arizona. And now you wake up a few days later and we're over 6 years into the process. I remember when I first took the job, and before I took the job, I did some research on, at that time it was Rec Games was the hot place to get a sense of the chess world. And it was a bit of a scary proposition, taking on the challenge, because the politics were so heated and so nasty, and there was so much of a vitriolic atmosphere at that time. And there were a lot of hotly debated topics and also just mean-spiritedness. And it was also a big challenge because for the 9 years preceding, there had been 10 different executive directors and similar numbers of CFOs and directors of publications. The organization had not had consistency for 10 years and had had severe challenges financially in 2014 to the very brink of bankruptcy. So there was a lot of cleaning up to do, and this has been a process, not to say it's completely finished. There's still a lot of things to clean up, and some of our own messes to clean up. You know, that was the focus early on, is cleaning up, getting more organized, and cleaning up problems like the profit sharing plan, things like that were leaning over our heads. But also cleaning up the politics. And I think I started talking much more. I talked a little bit about it in Chicago in 2006. I was talking more about it in 2007 in New Jersey. And I've really been amazed, taking a step back, at least especially the last few months, at how much better the political environment in the organization is. There's still things that we all disagree on, and it's important to be able to disagree, and it's important to be able to disagree in a civil manner. But we have to remember, like I said in my executive director's report, and I'm always curious as to if anyone ever reads those things. Let me see by a show of hands if you read these, and then tell me by a show of hands, are you lying? But the truth is, we've still got a ways to go, but the environment is so much better. And a great portion of the reason for that is the executive board that you have, and that you've had for the last couple of years. When you have leadership that works well together as a cohesive unit, it trickles throughout the organization. And of course, this probably is a little bit funny coming from me since I report to the board, so keep this in mind, board. But the truth is, they really have done so much to clean up the environment and the politics, and to have, it's been very refreshing to have that cohesive unit to work with, and feel like a supported executive director. And that's important for us all to move the Federation forward, is to have a board and an executive director that can work together and that they can get behind projects and support ideas going forward. Of course, as we were well into the cleanup times, we also moved into some desperate times. I think all of you know what we're referring to there, with lawsuits and impending financial disaster and all of that. But and we've had some pretty crazy situations. We even once had an executive board member that we were at a meeting of the executive board, And the hotel staff came up to us and asked us, is this gentleman with your group? And I said, well, yes. And they said, well, could you please have him stop stealing our pens? And so we went to the gentleman and asked him to give back the pens, and there were multiple handfuls of pens that appeared out of his pockets. That is the kind of representation that your organization has had at the highest levels. This kind of stuff cannot happen if we're going to be credible. And that's part of the cleaning out process that still has to go on. We have to take elections seriously. And we have to take who we put in leadership roles seriously. And we have to present a good image for the Federation. We also have to clean up other aspects of governance. And I know that the delegates are working on probably a two-stage process of doing some cleanup. But one thing that has always struck me is how definitively all of our corporate attorneys have always been about some of the aspects of our governance structure and how unwieldy it is. And I think the delegates have taken the advice and information that they've received there and are working on coming up with a better strategy in a better way. And, you know, things like that do take time. And policy making is one of the most difficult things that you can do. And even beyond policy making is structuring bylaws and forging the growth and the direction of an organization on policy level and on governance structure. It's hard work, and there's a lot of debate and a lot of differences in opinion on how things should go. But the key thing is we're engaged in the process, and all of you are here to be engaged in that process, and that is critical for this organization. And I want to thank all of you for spending a weekend here out of your life that you can be doing something else to dedicate that to this organization. Its future is very dependent on it, and I personally appreciate that very much. So with the desperate times came a period of survival, and it was pretty difficult just to get us through that time, but now we've moved into a period of recovery. And this year, it really is kind of the second year of that process, but this is the first year that the numbers really demonstrate that. And with close to a $200,000 profit, it's putting us in a lot better position. And I definitely want to thank our board member who's about to leave the board because he did our VP of Finance, Randy Bauer, was very instrumental in his leadership and focus and helping us keep focused on the task at hand. It was very, very helpful. Of course, staff had a tremendous amount to do with that as well. But we did it as an organization, and that's important. And I think it's important for us to feel good about that, but also remember, we still have a year and a half to 2 years that we have to be in recovery before we're back to where we were before the difficult times came. So we've got a lot more work to do in the recovery phase, but also while you're in the recovery phase, you can't forget about the future. And I want to touch on a few things about the future, and also I'm going to have someone else come up and talk to you a little bit about some special projects that we have going on, and he's got a couple of other people he's going to recognize. Because I want you to have a sense of the vision of where we want to head right now. A few things that I'm going to start off with before I turn it over to Jerry is online play and online leagues. When I first interviewed in April of 2005 in Berkeley, California, for the job, one of the things I presented to the board at the time, and let's see, Randy Bauer was there, Steve Shutt was there, Beatrice Marinello was there, Elizabeth Shaughnessy is Elizabeth here. I was trying to mention at least the ones that are in the room.
Today?
Yeah, 10, well, that are in the room now. Don Schultz was there, yes. And one of the key focuses that I had was I felt it very important that the USCF find its way back to online play. I know that the USCF had dabbled with trying to be involved in online play, but those things have not worked out. And I thought it was crucial that we find a way, but one of the biggest challenges once I got the opportunity to dabble in online play was, okay, you've talked a big game, but now where do the resources come from to make it happen? Well, we had to go through this cleanup and recovery period, but then through the process, an opportunity came about with some creative deal making that we could do it without an outlay of resources. And have ownership and control of it at the same time. And what I want to stress here is I don't necessarily think that the online play and online leagues are a panacea for the Federation that's going to make everything automatically all right. But it is a tool and a mechanism to grow the perceived value of the USCF membership. It's a mechanism to help us establish an online presence and an online community. And it's an opportunity to get people excited about local level chess and a support for the clubs. If we can have clubs competing all across the country in online leagues, that helps build that social aspect and that club, that local excitement. Once again, our clubs with online play availability out there in the world and draconian problems of insurance and things like that, just expenses and difficulty in finding places to have a club meeting, they've taken it on the chin over here. So we have to change the dynamic. We have to change the business plan. We have to change their way of thinking about how do we grow back that community experience. Because chess, there's not many of us sitting in this room, probably zero, that are professional chess players. Some can earn a living off of teaching chess, but by and large, it's just a purely excitement and passion for the people that brings us here. And that means it's a social experience. And we have to find a way to further that social experience, and the media that we have to do it in, largely, is the internet. The online leagues have a dual focus there. Clubs, adult chess, and I say adult chess meaning everybody chess, and then also focus on scholastic leagues, where I really see this being of benefit. I think it will help bring back some lost members, probably help bring a few new members, but the most value I see is retention, changing the retention numbers. And we've shown the graph before of the age demographic breakdown and how we have a huge peak at 10 years of age, and that drops off by the time they get to college to almost nothing. But if we could change that retention rate by 5% over a few years, that will drastically change our membership numbers. And with detail about that at a few different executive board members. We have to react, and we have to find ways to change the mix and the makeup of the composition of our membership. Part of that too is growing our social media presence. We're behind the times on a lot of companies and everything now. Of course, we're a nonprofit. We have limited resources. We're in a recovery period, so we don't have a lot of resources to throw at this. But when we don't have resources, we have to get creative. And we had a group of master's students at Babson College and their business department do a case study for us on social media. They have presented me with the results of that now, and we're looking into that study and see what we can implement. But they took a very hard look at us and what we're doing now and what we can do in the future to give us some learned advice as to how to penetrate and market the USC, penetrate the market and expose people to the USCF through most of the social media, including like Twitter and Facebook and all of that, and how to move towards being on the cutting edge of that. And you know, that's important. We don't have the money to go hire a major firm to give us a big study there, but this is a way that we could, with no expenditure, get some advice from people that are studying in this area. So, look over the next year to see a much greater presence and a much greater strategy in the online world and the social media market. Next, I want to bring up Mr. Jerry Nash. Jerry was our scholastics director, but we had, going through the survival period, we had to make some tough choices, and Jerry stepped away for a while and was our national education consultant, and took a bit of a reduced role while he went and worked on his master's degree, which is almost complete. But now we're in a position where we can have him back, and I had several huge, important, crucial, and I think you'll agree with me when you hear about these projects, how crucial they are to our potential growth in the future. And I had to have someone oversee these that I could trust in a fashion to make it cohesive across the spectrum of the different projects, but also someone that had experience in knowing what we were about and where we wanted to go, and someone that we can all definitely be proud of to represent us. So we brought it back. Mr. Nash is the Director of Special Projects, and we're also working on some sort of an educational component to that title too. But someone that's been very solid for us for several years, Mr. Jerry Nash. Thank you.
A couple of projects that I'd like to talk about that I'm working on currently. First is the World Youth. Most of you are aware that we have 60-plus players, probably close to 200 people as part of the U.S. delegation going in November to Brazil. And of course, most of you are also aware that the World Youth represents a goal for many students of sort of the pinnacle of an opportunity in chess as a youth player to be able to play in another country, represent their country in this kind of setting. One of the strongest competitions for this type of venue that they have. What you might not be aware is the fact that this tournament affords us the opportunity to represent ourselves as the Federation and as chess to educators across the country. You may not know that for the players who request it, and many of them do, I write a personal letter to either the student or their school, sometimes both, and talking about the honor that the student has received and what that means for their education and what it potentially can mean even for their school to be involved with this. So this, again, gives us an opportunity to represent ourselves as a federation within the education community, who often is a bit skeptical about having one or more of their students be out of school in the fall semester for approximately 2 weeks. But it gives us, again, an opportunity to represent ourselves and saying, this is valuable, here's what this is doing, and here's what you can do to make their experience better and enrich the experience of the other students who are not going, and make this a learning opportunity for everyone involved. So, yes, the World Youth is a great opportunity for our players, and it represents the pinnacle of their play in USCF events, all those kinds of things, but on the flip side, it does give us some presence and credibility among educators that most of us who work in scholastic chess know that we have to maintain. The other project that I'm working on, well, one of several, but one of the major ones, and you're probably aware of our work with the Boy Scouts of America and the new Chess Merit Badge program. And I'm going in just a second to ask Ralph Bowman to come up and speak about that. Ralph, of course, well, I don't know that he was informed about the tablet that was in that glass of water that Bill handed you. I was against it, but it's self-activating, I think, after 3 to 5 minutes. And so we can call EMT, but, you know, I think it wouldn't be anything use. But anyway, Ralph is going to come talk about Ralph Bowman, of course, from Kansas, has been a perennial presence in scholastic chess at a lot of levels, local, state, national, international levels, and I guess probably one of the best things that I could say about Ralph in this process is that he worked with a committee of chess players. Now, have you ever worked, if you have worked with a committee of chess players, you do not take that statement for granted. If you haven't, I would not encourage you to do so, but if you have the opportunity, it will be a learning experience. I told Ralph I would probably use the term herding cats, and I think that's somewhat of an apt description, but Ralph did a terrific job of taking a group of very passionate chess players who have strong opinions, and I haven't met a chess player who didn't have a strong opinion about pretty much anything, and so but he sort of herded them through that process, which could have taken 6 to 8 years, and he made it happen within just a few months, and kept them on task and guided them in the process and helped them to understand this is what we need, this is what we needed, and yes, you will do this. And so Ralph did a terrific job. And Ralph, would you take a few minutes and share a little bit about the Merit Badge Project?
I would like to take this time to explain a little bit of the chronology and the people involved. In June 2009, Mike Neatman sent out an email to the Scholastic Council, or excuse me, the Scholastic Committee, asking if anyone was interested in working with the Boy Scouts to possibly get a Chess Merit Badge. That is the brand new Chess Merit Badge. The only people from the Scholastic Committee who responded were Jim Salone of Connecticut and myself. Knowing as a former Boy Scout and Boy Scout leader that the Boy Scouts were a very political organization, I designed not to approach them through their website, but instead find an individual. A former student of mine named Chad Dozier had worked his way up in the Boy Scouts and was a district director of scouting for 4 states. And so I asked him to find out the one person I could approach. And he introduced me to a lady in the Dallas headquarters of the Boy Scouts named Janice Downey. She gave me the application. Now, thanks to a document that Jim Salone had written for presentation to school boards, we were able to use that for many of the questions to be answered in the application. And it is primarily because of Jim's document that we ended up getting approved. This was the 8th request in the Boy Scouts to have a Chess Merit Badge. But all of the previous attempts had dwelled on the playing of the game. Well, we stressed the playing of the game, but we also stressed, due to his document,
the benefits of the game to the player. And that's how that's why the three organizations of the Boy Scouts, that's a National Council of Scouts, a National Council of Scout Masters, and their executive board approved having a chess merit badge. In May 2010, I received a phone call from Janice Downey, and she let me know that this had been approved, and those portions that caused the chess merit badge application were exactly what Jim had in his proposal. Between the two of us, we decided that anyone to be on the committee should be a chess player, a chess coach, a former Boy Scout, and a former Boy Scout leader. I sent out those requirements to the Scholastic Committee and received no responses. I then sent out those requirements to the Certified Chess Coaches, a group I'm the administrator for, and received responses from Robert Boland of South Dakota, James Dunyan of Massachusetts, and Chris Kim of Maryland. Janice Downey also had two other names she asked me if she could add to the committee, and these were people who had made previous unsuccessful attempts to get a chess merit badge, and they were Joseph Bell of Georgia and Stan Kern of Texas. The committee first came up with an outline of what was needed, which took the entire month of August 2010. The committee then subdivided the outline with each member writing different sections. One of the sections was a history of American chess. So I asked past president and chess historian, Dr. John McCrary, if he would write that section. And I'm very thankful that he agreed to do that. About that time, Bill Hall appointed Jerry Nash to be the liaison with this committee, and afterwards to be the liaison with the Boy Scouts. And so I asked him to write a section in the booklet about the U.S. Chess Federation. Many kids know there's chess, but they don't know about us. And so thanks to what he put in, they now do. The Boy Scouts released the first copies of the Chess Merit Badge book, sent copies to me. They arrived here at the hotel on Monday and asked me to present them to the Scholastic Council, which I did on Wednesday, and present them to the executive board today. Mike Neatman has copies that he is going to pass out for me to the executive board. So they get the very first copies, these people get the very first copies of the Chess Merit Badge booklet. On August 20th, every Boy Scout store in America is going to have the Chess Merit Badge booklet available. Now, here's where you come in. As each of you go back to your communities, I would like to challenge you to go to your local scout troop or troops. Tell them that you would be willing to act as a Chess Merit Badge counselor to help these young people through this merit badge. I honestly believe that this merit badge will bring thousands of young men into our world. One other thing. After we finished, I wanted to, Boy Scouts aren't enough. We need the Girl Scouts too. So I made changes in the booklet, took out all references to Boy Scouts. With Dan Lucas's help, took out the pictures of boys, inserted pictures of girls. By the way, he gave most of the pictures also for the Boy Scout pamphlet, the Chess Merit Badge pamphlet. Jennifer Shahade agreed to write a section on women of American chess, and I've got that ready to submit to the Girl Scouts. The problem is they are a very close-knit organization. Only the 7 members of their executive board can introduce new interest project awards. That's what the Girl Scouts call a merit badge. And so if any of you happen to know one of these 7 executive members of the Girl Scouts, would you please help me get in touch with them so we can get the Girl Scouts involved in chess also. Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph, for that hard work and for the hard work of a lot of people who helped make this a possibility. I met with the national leadership of the Boy Scouts earlier this year, and we're in the process of working on a support structure of both activities and programs that will help increase the activity for the merit badge, to incentivize it. And I do have to tell you this, and I know Bill is probably going to make a comment about her later on, but I just wanted to say, you've got to watch out for that step, because I just about did the same thing. And I was almost where you are, right just about a moment ago. One of the things, one of the representatives of the Boy Scouts came over to the National Elementary to observe. And the fact that, and I know many of you are aware of this, but Pat Knight-Smith, as National Events Director, does a superb job, and those events are so well organized that when the Boy Scout representative came through, looked at what we did, I explained the rationale for what was happening, both in the hotel, in the rooms, what was going on. They were extremely impressed. Now, yes, we have a merit badge, but, and I think, and Ralph has alluded to this, and I would second the fact that what this does is establishes a presence for us and a credibility with approximately 2 million members, many of whom do not know we exist. And this gives us a tremendous opportunity to both establish and maintain a relevant presence in their midst and help them to fulfill their goals of educating youth. So this is a major project. You'll hear things about this in the days ahead, and just realize, as Ralph said, you have an opportunity to be a part of that as you encourage this at your local level and you know, have your availability and encourage others to be a part of it. So these are a couple of projects that I'm working on. There are others in the mix, and we have some really tremendous opportunities to establish our presence and credibility well beyond where we've been in days past. So I look forward to that. Thank you. Yes?
I'd like to point out also that a number of Boy Scout councils, which cover large numbers of scouts and troops, have programs that allow people to sponsor chess merit badges. And this is something that anyone who's interested should really check with the council in their area and see if they have that program and try to get it known. And if they don't have that program, try to get them to have it, because it seems to be working.
As Ralph already mentioned, yes, you do need to establish a connection, a local connection to your Boy Scout groups in your area. Jim?
All right. Thank you, Jerry. Also, Jerry's always near and dear to Jerry's heart's chess and education, and he, through his efforts, a lot of his efforts, Tennessee Technological University, just a few months ago, got a pretty significant grant from the state of Tennessee for a first year of a program of chess as part of the curriculum across the school districts, several school districts in Tennessee. And that's always been one of our big goals, and Jerry, through tremendous effort, has helped make that happen in one school, and has now a duplicatable process where he can go forward and start growing those type of things as well. So, and that's, you know, the possibilities there are fantastic with chess growing more and more as an educational component across the country. And I want to thank Jerry for all of those efforts as well. that.
Plenty of time.
Matter of fact, the president, right before he left, he said, "Are you still speaking?" I said, "Okay, I'm going to that." Some of the other major projects that we're focusing on there too, and this is in support of the efforts with the Boy Scouts, is in support of efforts throughout all aspects of what we do, support for coaches, support for TDs, support for members in general, our website, etc. We have a major shift in focus towards video training. Jen's already started doing a lot more video recording on our website, but video through web media is going to be a crucial part of the social networking, the social media aspect of community building for us. A lot of our financial results have been, and Randy will go into this in detail, but have been due to cuts. But for the future, there's not a lot more to cut, and we have to start growing. And we have to start growing our revenue. And we have to start growing our services to be long-term viable if we want to grow our membership. If we don't grow the value of our membership and grow the exposure of our organization, we will continue to decline in membership. And if we continue to decline in membership, at some point, we cease to be as viable. Some of the revenue things that we have right off the bat, obviously the changes with the services of online play, online training, I think over the next 2-3 years will start to have an impact on our bottom line. But in the short run, we are focusing more on affinity programs and royalty type agreements. We have a official status of a new book series that we're working on that we should be finalizing very soon. Also, I just, a day or two before I got on the plane to come here, had a follow-up meeting on an affinity program with an insurance company. And right now the proposal would be for the USCF to receive into a scholarship fund $15 per quote from people coming from the USCF, just per quote. That's not even per person. So if you call up and you legitimately give them an opportunity to give you a quote for insurance, that they will contribute $15 into a scholarship fund. As we grow more scholarships, that will help us build the value with education. So these are different things that we're focusing on to, let's say, grow revenue, put ourselves in a better financial position moving forward, so that we can have some more resources to continue growing the value of our membership and the services that we offer. And then on the political level, we have to continue to get better on how we work through our differences. And I want to take just a moment to recognize a period of growth for me, and some things that I learned just in the last couple of days that hopefully will help shift some focuses here in this room. But just a couple of days ago, a very important member of our organization and I had a very heated disagreement between us, a heated topic. And he and I met, and the first 20-25 minutes were very, very, very contentious, I would say. And we both came very close to walking away with the meeting, not only with it unresolved, but ramping it up a little bit. But we sat there and we did what we had to do to work through those differences. And I think we both walked away with a much greater understanding of each other and a much greater mutual respect. And I think we both grew a lot through that process. And we can all do that with each other. Remember, what are we here for? It's chess. It's a great game. Some of us are here because we just love to play chess. Some of us are here because we love to see kids learn to play chess. We want to make differences in kids' lives. Some of us are here because we're fans of a certain chess player, or just want to be a part of something greater. We've got a good product of chess. We've got a good group and a dedicated group and people that want to make a difference. Even though we may have differences among ourselves, let's not let those differences tear us apart. Let's see those as opportunities to work through those differences and grow together to make our game stronger. Thank you, Sunil, for helping me learn that lesson. And thank you all for spending your time being here.
Tell us about Skylar.
Put a picture of Skylar on the board.
Well, I did have an interesting, if you're coming to the awards meeting, we'll talk more about that. Okay, it goes along with the theme of the awards ceremony. Right, because it's
The other picture is better.
I emailed you one. There is an announcement here. This is his Mikhail Tao pose. I think Jennifer's going to be announcing on the Chess Life Online website that I have decreed this to be the youngest USCF master ever. And that I deny any possible conflicts of interest regarding that decision.
Next is a report from the Vice President of Finance, Randy Bauer. Part of our austerity measures, we're only having one microphone at the front table. This is the fourth and I'm somewhat relieved to say final report as Vice President of Finance that I'll be doing to you all. And some of you heard a lot of the same kinds of discussion in previous years. This organization has, as we all know and Bill alluded to, faced some difficult financial challenges in recent years. And the board has spent a lot of time, along with the professional staff, working on ways that we can work to see ourselves clear of some of those challenges. And I'm pleased to say that we're seeing some evidence of progress in that area, although we still have a long ways to go. Yesterday at the finance workshop, which was well attended, we had over 30 people participating, and it was a more than 2-hour discussion on a lot of these topics. We touched on some of the financial results for the past fiscal year that ended at the end of May of this year, and also the proposed budget for next year, and what that's going to mean for the organization going forward. And I'll touch on a couple of those topics first. First, in terms of the audited financial statements, as Joan Anna mentioned, they are available at the table right outside the front of this room. The audited financial statements for the last fiscal year, when you get down